Why does the F1 want Netflix to lie to us? The F1 has been around for decades and has a massive and rabid fan base. But over recent years, the F1 has struggled to bring in a younger audience, but more specifically has struggled to tap into that lucrative market that is the USA. In 2019, Netflix released a new docuseries titled Formula One: Drive to Survive. A docuseries designed to give an insight into the races and the behind the scenes of the teams and the drivers of the F1. And since this series has come out, the popularity of F1 has skyrocketed. To many sports fans, maybe coming across F1 on TV, they might just see it as cars going round and round in a loop for a couple hours and decide to switch it off. F1 is definitely a sport that requires a bit of background information and more inside knowledge to fully appreciate and understand what's actually going on, and to fully understand why so many people are crazy about the sport. Drive to Survive provides people with no knowledge as to F1 or motorsports some context into the competition. Just think about it. When growing up, you'd be playing sports like basketball, soccer, rugby, and would at least have a general understanding of the rules of those sports. So it's much easier to follow and jump into becoming a fan of the professional leagues. Whereas with motorsports, unless you grew up around it and actually went go-karting when you were a little kid, it's very unlikely you would have any understanding of the rules, let alone the mechanics behind the sport. And of course, beyond just giving you the basics and rules of the sport, the show actually does a really good job in giving you that insight into the characters, the personalities, and the teams that are behind the sport. Something that's very difficult to do in a sport where all the important people are wearing helmets. Through following not only the drivers, but the team principals and other individuals that are part of that F1 family, the audience gets to form a real emotional connection, which in turn builds their connection to the sport and their investment in the competition. Through this show, I'm sure a lot of people picked a favorite driver or a favorite team, and just through this simple act of becoming a fan of a person or a team, F1 has hooked another viewer. And the show does a good job in building intrigue around the sport as a whole. If you didn't really get to see the behind the scenes, you wouldn't really be interested in the lower and midfield teams. They give you an appreciation for the sport and the teams as a whole, and doesn't just focus on the winner. And considering that over the last few years, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes were winning the championship every time, you can see how a lot of people might have found that boring. Before watching Drive to Survive, all I knew about F1 was literally the name Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. But, the producers of Drive to Survive knew that for this show to take off, they had to add that not so secret ingredient: drama. Essentially presenting an F1 season in a reality TV style dramatization, allowing viewers of The Real Housewives or Love Island to comfortably transition themselves and ease into this show, creating digestible storylines and rivalries for new fans to really sink their teeth into. However, a lot of older fans, F1 diehards, and even drivers aren't too fond of the over-dramatization of the sport. There are many instances in which the producers of the show will edit different footage and scenes and stitch them together to fabricate something that never really happened, and essentially lie to viewers to build intrigue. And this is usually through stitching things that were said over the radio, over different footage that happened in the race.
He's forced me off.
That
wasn't even from this race.
From a different race, yeah.
Yeah.
And they do this to exemplify specific instances of conflict. An example of a driver that's not too fond of the over-dramatization of Drive to Survive is Max Verstappen. The driver for Red Bull refused to be a part of season 4 entirely, saying that the show faked rivalries that never existed, and he didn't like the over-dramatization. He only wanted to deal with facts. Other drivers haven't taken as extreme a stance, but some have been vocal about their unhappiness about how certain things were portrayed. Which is fair, because it is their image and they need to protect it. And if the show is constantly showing you beefing with someone or getting into conflicts and making you out as the villain, then it doesn't really exactly benefit you to be on the show. And there is a speculated consequence of this over-dramatization, the Drive to Survive effect, if you will. And that is the dramatic finale to the 2021 season. While of course the F1 has denied it, there is speculation that the final lap of the 2021 season, in which Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, equal on points, controversially raced in a final lap for the championship, that this may have been a result of the pressure on Michael Massey, the then F1 race director, from the Netflix cameras and the viewership, to potentially deviate from the hard and fast rules and to put on a show for the fans. Of course, the F1 has denied this, but you can sort of see how this train of thought works. But at the end of the day, the drivers, the team principals, and most importantly, the F1 understand more drama equals more intrigue equals more fans, and more fans equals more money. Just look at the TV rights for the F1. In 2022, the F1 and ESPN reached an agreement to renew their rights deal through to 2025 for a reported amount of $75 to $90 million annually. This is a gigantic raise from the previous deal from 2019 through to 2021, which was just $5 million a year. And with the rise of popularity in the F1 as a result of the Netflix series, the Netflix team has now produced shows for professional tennis called Breakpoint and professional golf called Full Swing, obviously in the hopes that their respective sports would also achieve an influx of fans as the F1 did with the reality TV-ization of their respective sports. With the positive effect on the bottom dollar for the F1, it's unlikely that Netflix and Drive to Survive is going to change the over-dramatization and the style of the show as currently constituted. And that's why they'll keep lying to you. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.